Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching NDTV. Farmers of northern India are marching again. In response to the Samyukta Kisan Morcha non-political and the Kisan Mazdoor Morcha's ongoing Delhi Chalo agitation, Union Ministers Arjun Munda, Piyush, Goyal and Nityanand are to meet farmer representatives in Chandigarh this evening. Remember, a virtual meeting was held between the farmers and representatives from the central government on Wednesday. The protest was started to put pressure on the Centre for Farmers' demands, which include a law on the minimum support price, which is MSP for crops, and also loan waivers. Now, the protest is generating more noise due to restrictions on highways than the actual nuances of agricultural policy in India. The demand for a new law on MSP is not new, and so is the rejection of it. While representatives of the centre are trying to resolve the situation through dialogue, it is unlikely that any law offering guaranteed MSPs for all crops can be even considered because of the fiscal implications it would have on the budget. Many experts have said that a legal guarantee of MSP will be a logistical and fiscal nightmare, but many have also pointed out that farmers who sell their produce in bulk often have no control over the prices they are sold at, even as they continue paying retail prices on essentials. In this regard, how justified is the demand for an enhanced MSP? Will a dialogue yield any solution? The politics and the optics of it are critical too, but what can help the farmers of India the most? That is the question we are asking tonight. Joining us is a panel of esteemed guests, but first let me go across to my colleague Vishal, who is covering the protest on ground. Vishal, what is the latest on the prospective ongoing dialogue between the centre and farmers? Several farmer unions, including the SKM, have called for a Bharat Bandh tomorrow.
That is right, Vasudha. So we are at the spot where the meeting is supposed to take place between the centre and the farmers today. So the farmers reached this place about 2.5 hours ago. The meeting was supposed to start at 5 p.m. But the government ministers have not reached yet. Both Piyush, Goyal, Arjun Munda are supposed to attend the meeting with the farmers. Last time also they had represented the centre for the meeting, although no positive outcome had come from the meeting. This time around, there are some hopes that something could happen, but I have spoken to a few farmer leaders, few senior leaders. They remain, they are not very hopeful that something positive will come out of this meeting because it's a deadlock kind of situation. The centre is not budging and the farmers are very resolute in their demands, and they want all of their demands to be fulfilled, especially the MSP, which is the minimum support price. So we'll have to wait for the meeting to start, while at the same time there are thousands of supporters, thousands of protesters who are assembled at the Shambhu border, which is the border between Haryana and Punjab. So they are awaiting instructions. They have not created any ruckus today. They have not tried to scale the border today. They are waiting for this meeting to get over. If there is a positive outcome, they will probably stand down. But if there isn't, the conflict will continue and they will try to, tear down the barricade and try to cross the border to Haryana.
Right. Vishal, the Punjab and Haryana High Court has asked the centre to sort of update the court on the kind of dialogue that is happening. More organizations in Haryana have also sort of responded to the protest, showing their solidarity. Do you see this escalating in the near future, or do you see some dialogue happening anytime soon?
So the dialogue is supposed to happen today. So these dialogues have been happening. This is the third round of talks. So nothing concrete has come out of these dialogues. In the second meeting, there was some consensus on some issues. Out of the 10, I think 3-4 issues, they had reached some kind of consensus. But this time around, the farmers have reiterated that they won't budge on MSP, and they have released a statement earlier in the day and asked the centre to only, attend the meeting if they have something positive in mind and if they want this conflict to end, right, and their demands to be fulfilled. So that will have to be seen when the meeting starts, and right, it could go on for hours.
Thank you, Vishal, for joining us with those details. That was my colleague Vishal with reporting on the farmers' agitation from Chandigarh. Remember, an important meeting between ministers and the farmer groups is all set to take place today. We also have Ravneet Brar, who's a farmer leader and spokesperson of BKU Kalyan. We have Rajat Sethi, who's an economist and also political analyst. We have Mr. Anil Ghanawat, who is a member of the Shetkari Sangathan and also who was also part of he was also member of the Supreme Court appointed committee on farm laws in 2021. We have Dr. Aman Chugh, who is a financial markets and economics expert, joining us. Thank you so much for all of you for joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Brad, let me come to you straight away. See, farmer protests are not new to India, and every political party, every government, at least at the face of it, has been sensitive. But the government in many conversations has made it clear that it can guarantee MSP only on crops and the quantities that it buys. It cannot procure the entire produce brought by farmers to the mandis, nor can it enforce MSP on private trade. On the other hand, some believe that an MSP guarantee can actually nudge farmers to diversify crops, which is something that everyone wants the farmers to do. It can go beyond paddy, wheat, and it can also improve incomes. How does one look at this question of legal MSPs, sir?
See, ma'am, already Indian government announced MSP for 23 crops. So there is a calculation behind it. They calculate and then they give a fixed price. This is the floor price. Like in US, it is called floor price. Over here, we call it MSP. So, but what happens when it comes to procurement? They just procure rice and wheat. The other crops like cotton and maize, other crops, fruits and everything, they are left behind to the private players, and a lot of exploitation is there. So what we are demanding is, there should be a legal document. No one should be able to buy behind the price that government has already announced, because they have announced the price after almost each and every inputs and calculations, and even the GDP and all those considerations they have announced. But what is happening when it comes to fruits and vegetables and other crops? So farmer is, if he wants to diversify, because what is happening in Punjab, already the water table is depleting. There is a study by NASA that coming down the 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, the water won't be able to,
Right.
drink the water in Punjab. So even if we want to diversify, we can't diversify at the cost unless there should be something in the price of paddy or something we are getting at the price of wheat. So these are the things we are demanding, nothing
Right.
more than it, because already there was a commitment. In 2021, we withdrawn the protest at Delhi borders. There was a written assurance that a committee will be formed and it will give its reports within 6 months with equal representation from the SKM.
Okay, let me ask Rajat Sethi this question. Rajat, in 2021, like Mr. Prar was also saying, we saw similar protests that led the government to revoke farm laws that many would say were well-intended. Now we see suspension of mobile internet services. Today, in fact, I was looking at pictures of langar that had been organized at Shambhu border, and shatterproof goggles are being distributed to farmers, to protect them from tear gas shelling. At least the optics of it looks very concerning. How do you see the government's response? Because now you see even the opposition has latched onto it. Mamata Banerjee said that this is a Ravan-led center. Rahul Gandhi is saying that farmers are like soldiers fighting for the country. Do you think the government needs to be mindful of the sensitivities? I'm sure it is, but do you think, what is the kind of approach that the government needs to have with respect to the farmers' protests right now?
Well, by any measure, the timing would be a suspect, and will continue to draw all political parties, especially on the opposition benches, to come in, jump in, and utilize this opportunity, so to say, right before the national elections, to draw in the battle lines when it comes to farm issues. Having said that, there are absolutely genuine concerns around farmers in certain pockets, not necessarily all pockets. Especially, say, for instance, in Maharashtra, where government had put a floor price on the export of onions. They said that you cannot be selling onions below a certain price in the export markets, and a lot of farmers stepped in and said that you cannot put that cap on the prices, because we should be allowed to freely sell in, even if we have to sell at a lower price. Government did so as to maintain a steady supply of the essential commodities like onion, tomato, potato, and all of those things. So government is being proactive ever since that, none of these essential commodities go into scarcity, or there is any kind of artificial upsurge in the prices of these commodities. So from a consumer standpoint, government always has to do a balancing act. How much to support the farmers on one side through these MSP and extra market efforts to arrest any kind of challenges that the farmers are meeting, and also keeping the consumer prices in mind and ensuring the consumers find food commodities affordable.
Yes.
Now,
Right.
this is the delicate rope that the central government traverses on. One thing that is very evident, government spends around 2.5 lakh crores for MSP procurement every year.
Right.
They already spend this much, and they are roughly procuring 25% of food grains. So if you multiply it by 4, a simple rule of thumb says that this will go up to 10 to 12 lakh crore rupees of expense every year, which is going to be very hard for any government or a government-led procurement in any capacity. No government or no opposition party can come out and say that they will, in a fiscal responsible manner, can actually do this. Congress, Rahul Gandhi has said that. I'm really shocked. On one side.
Okay, Rajat, I'm just going to come to you in a bit, but you've made a very interesting point on the logistical possibilities of this. Let me get Mr. Ghanawat, who has been part of the MSP Supreme Court appointed committee. Mr. Ghanawat, many have flagged concerns over the extent MSP and also procurement policy favoring only a few crops. Even Rajat and Mr. Brar also talked about certain things here. We also see that livestock and horticulture are market-led, and these sectors have seen growth in the last few years, but we can't say the same thing about crops. So what exactly, as an expert, do you say is the best way forward? Do you say an enhanced MSP or a price-based and income-based support is important for farmers? And how does one look at input subsidies? Will a model with input subsidies along with income transfers work for farmers the best?
First thing, I would like to make it clear that making a law for assurance of getting MSP to the farmers won't help farmers in any way, because MSP is not a remunerative price. It is the minimum support that's given to the farmers. Secondly, the sector which are not supported by MSP, such as fisheries and dairy, they are doing quite well. The growth rate is astonishing. So even after giving MSP is not a way to bring farmers out of this hassle. What should be done is that farmers should be given the freedom of trade. The government intervenes whenever there is a hike in the price. Farmers are in a position to get remunerative prices. The government steps in and it puts stock limits. It puts export bans, or even interstate trade is banned. So these restrictions reduce the price of the commodity, and the farmers are at a loss. So
Right.
if the government removes these restrictions and then the MSP is given, there will be hardly any time where the government will have to purchase these commodity at MSP. And if there is by chance in 2, 3, 4 years, commodity is too surplus and the government has to procure it, the government should procure it. If there is a law saying that no one will buy under the MSP, then the traders will step out of the market and say that if we are going to jail, we won't purchase anything below MSP. You can sell it wherever you want. So
Right.
farmers will have no bias for their produce. The government will have to step in. If there has to be a law should be that whenever the prices drop below MSP, the government is responsible and it should procure all that produce. So this type of law should come if ever there is going to be a law for the support of MSP, the minimum support
Right.
guarantee.
Right.
So
Okay, so let me also remind our viewers that my colleague Vishal has just reported that central ministers have arrived in Chandigarh for the important round of talks that are to happen with the protesting farmer organizations. Dr. Chugh, government procurement is of limited agricultural items and it is in only selective geography. So in that case, isn't it important that market forces get strengthened and farmers are ensured some access or at least complete access to marketplaces? Everyone here has pointed out that MSP is just a floor price. It's just an indicative price based on input costs. So how can it be made mandatory?
Namaskar. I would like to answer my answer into two different parts. One on micro level, which we are speaking about in terms of Indian farmers, and one maybe what is happening across the globe, which is on a macro front across Germany and France as well. Because that would also impact the supply chain disruptions, which will be disrupting Indian economy as well. Particularly speaking about the micro front, it is quite not possible for the government to be doing a MSP on 23 crops because of the budgetary constraints, which we have already discussed. So the simple point is this all wheat and rice on which the major chunk of the budgetary constraints is being imposed by the government. I think we need to be doing away from such type of negative millets, because wheat and rice fall into the category of negative millets. And in order to assure the MSP, there are various factors which comes into the cost of raising such wheat and rice, which includes the water level, the pesticides, and even the cost of seeds. So more of structural reforms in bringing the positive millets, such as maybe barnyard or a foxtail or a kodo or a brown top millet. I'm not talking about the bajra, restricting to bajra itself. I'm talking about the positive millets, because the bajra, etc. are more of a neutral millets. Once we go into the territory of the positive millets, it will bring massively the cost of producing these type of seeds, and plus the consumption requirement would also drastically come down. The over dependence upon the water levels, the pesticides, the high yield variety of the seeds, etc. would also come down, and it would indirectly also help the betterment of the health standards for the people in India.
Right.
On the macro front, whatever is happening across the globe, particularly speaking about the Germany and the France as well, see, there is a larger challenge coming up across globe, which is the global chaos in the economies, which due to the war-like disruptions, plus the supply chain disruptions. It will lead to a lot of inflationary pressures. Because of this inflationary pressures, what is going to happen is the yield, the market forces yield will go up because of the inflation, while the interest rates will not be lowered. And if the interest rates are not lowered, the actual economy across globe will see a contraction, including India.
Okay.
So
let me get Mr. Brar here. Also, let me remind viewers that Punjab ministers have arrived at the venue of the meeting. Central ministers are yet to arrive. Mr. Brar, some states, Dr. Chugh was also talking about best practices here and what is happening in the West. Now, some states in India, like Madhya Pradesh and Haryana, have also experimented with the government paying the deficit between MSP and price. We've seen different versions of the Bhavantar Bharpai or the Bhugtan Yojana. What do you think is a good practice, or is there one?
See, ma'am, first of all, we need to understand like Dr. Swaminathan ji said, the nation with grains will rule the world in coming few years, because there is a lot of shortage of grains everywhere. So even if we are not asking for some freebies, this MSP is, we are giving the government a product, the product which has some market value. The market value which they can export to other countries also. So what we are growing is what government is buying. So if government wants to buy something else or they want to export something else, they can always assure us a fixed price for that. Even we will grow, the farmers and the government, there will be a win-win situation for the both. Right. And second thing, the question you were asking, other states are doing this Bhavantar scheme and all those schemes. See, what is our major concern? Our major concern is farmers' income. Even with the Bhavantar scheme or other schemes, we don't care about it. We just care about what we are getting. If we can give an award to Dr. Swaminathan for all the policies that he has made in agriculture, why can't we implement the policy that he has given on the MSP, which is on the table since 2006?
Okay,
8
let me
years
get
of
Rajat
Congress.
Sethi here. Rajat, the problem I understand from experts is also specifically with oilseeds and pulses. Farmers, many of whom feel that MSP that's promised to them is largely on paper, unlike rice, wheat, sugarcane, which where the government ensures that MSP is done, through large-scale direct procurement or even by forcing mills to pay. So there's also this question of imports, which you were talking about. Now, wheat attracts 40% import duty as opposed to many pulses and also soybean and sunflower oil, which are importable at zero duty. So how should one address the other aspects of the agricultural challenges that farmers face apart from the MSP?
See, this is where I think there are several competing objectives that not just the farmers but also the governments have to address, and this is why it is more complex than what is being assumed to be. There is no clear answer. Otherwise, a lot of governments of not just the BJP but also the Congress party would have implemented something and would have come out of it successfully or created one small example before us, which is a successful model in its entirety. There is none. There is no state government which has come out and experimented and done well, including first the Raman Singh government in Chhattisgarh, then Bhupesh Baghel government in Chhattisgarh. Both of them, rice itself was a commodity, pretty staple MSP commodity, but nobody was able to get it right. Raman Singh had lost his 15 years of rule primarily based on the MSP based procurement. Even Bhupesh Baghel promised a lot of things and he couldn't do within those 5 years. See, this is why I'm saying when, it's very easy to make a policy statement up during a political rally, the way Rahul Gandhi did. But in order to implement he should be speaking to Bhupesh Baghel that where all did you fail? Why were you not able to successfully procure rice to the satisfaction of the farmers? That farmers do not come out and step out and wipe you out from power. See, this is why certain things from the government side are inhibiting them to come out with a full-fledged guarantee, legal guarantee, which can be honored also.
Right.
Not just a legal guarantee in words alone. Implementation also.
So the legal guarantee that needs to be honored, that's well said. Mr. Ganawat,
most of the transactions are in cash.
Yes.
You cannot have legal guarantees when cash transactions are happening.
Yes. Mr. Ganawat, would you agree with Rajat on that? And do you think the sole focus on MSP, or at least what seems from the farmers' protest, could be counterproductive? In other words, does this MSP-based market distortions, does that need a correction?
Of course, it needs a correction. I agree with the gentleman, Mr. Rajat. What happens is, when there is a scheme like Bhavantar, there is a lot of corruption and people resell their produce and there are many other things happen. If there is a legal guarantee for certain crops, the farmers will start growing only that crop which gives them more income. So there will be shortage of some crops and there will be surplus of other crops. And we don't have that sort of funds to procure all this produce. So MSP is not going to help. Only free trade can help the farmers of India. And MSP should be used for base price for deciding the import duty.
Right.
The import duty limit so that the import price should be higher than the cost of production or the MSP decided by the state. And also, MSP is not remunerative and MSP doesn't help the farmers. So, MSP is not the answer. Free trade is the answer and that should be allowed.
Right.
And then only this type of law can be implementable.
Right. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. So those are the challenges to having a legal MSP, something that the farmer organizations have been asking for. There is a call for Bandh that farmer organizations have issued. A critical meeting is meanwhile going to take place in Chandigarh between central ministers and protesting farmer organizations. Time for a short break. We'll be back with more news and updates.